Keep your what on? After discovering a bug in the system, Olivia is given clothing advice by Carson, project lead. I'm a woman in tech. These are our stories. Stay tuned if you want to hear about Olivia's success story about finding a bug in the system and her issues working with her male colleagues as an application developer in the tech industry. Olivia is a back-end developer on a large project at Superstar Consulting. They were working on a business intelligence application for one of their large customers. Olivia was senior on this project for the first time. She was very proud of that. She had finally made the jump from junior to senior. She was doing some final coding reviews as the application was due to go to production next week. During the process of her review, she stumbled across something strange in the code. She thought this could be a serious security flaw. After looking at the code and the change history for more than an hour, she was convinced there was a small chance, but a chance nonetheless, that a user could be granted access to the data of another user, and to make matters worse, the data could then be imported into their own data. In layman's terms, this meant that the analytics from one company could corrupt the analytics of another company, making the data completely useless. Have you ever found an issue in some code? What did you do? Did you fix it yourself, or did you bring it to the attention of the project leader? Stay tuned if you want to know what Olivia did and what happened after that. Olivia found it hard to believe that an error like this could be in the system this late in the development lifecycle. To be sure, she decided to go through it again just to ensure that she was right. This project was due to be released into production in a week. What could they do? What would they do? What should they do? She couldn't understand how an error like this could have propagated this far into the system without anyone noticing. They obviously didn't need to pay more attention during code reviews, which she knew was hard. They had been under a lot of pressure this last month to finish this project. The more she looked, the more problems she found. This error had been dragged throughout the system by someone obviously copying and pasting code without understanding what the code did in the first place. Olivia had an idea of who this could be. A few checks in Git, and her fears were confirmed. This was Mike's doing, or at least partially. As a junior, he couldn't take all the blame. Someone had reviewed this code and approved it. The team was to blame. They had let themselves down. Olivia sent an email off to Carson, the project manager for the team, and asked him if he had a moment later in the day to discuss a possible problem that may affect the release of the Super Analytics application next week. What would you have done? Would you have walked straight into Carson's office and explained the issue, or do you think it was okay to send an email first? Do you think she spent enough time researching her issue, or do you think she spent too much? What if she's wrong? How much time do you spend before presenting an issue to a coworker? Do you think that women spend more or less time than men trying to be sure they're not wrong? Let me know in the comments below, and stay tuned to see what happens next. After sending the email, Olivia went off to lunch. At lunch, she'd sat down at her normal table with some of the team members. She turned to Steve and said, "Guess what I found this morning?" She began to outline what exactly she had found. Before long, the entire table was involved in the discussion. They were all talking about possible solutions and how long it would take to fix it, and how to mitigate any damages. Jim suggested that they should just patch the issue for now and put it on the list in the next milestone to fix it properly. Davis suggested that the proper fix would be to create a new object that would be able to control the data securely and ensure that it can't be shared between users. Olivia reminded them that they would need to create a database script to ensure that nothing was corrupt in the database. Martin was always worried about liabilities and wondered out loud if they should contact the customers to let them know that their monthly data may be incorrect until a regeneration after the patch, and again after the milestone. Olivia said she wasn't sure if, in fact, the bug may make Superstar Consulting liable for any damages if the customer had used invalid information and lost money somehow. Jan wondered how the testers had not picked this up. Olivia then explained that how hard it was going to be to test this and that it would have to go through several steps. But it shouldn't be too bad to add to their test suite, and she made a mental note to add this to a list of things to discuss with Carson later that day. Then someone asked if they knew who had introduced this bug. Olivia reluctantly said that it may have had something to do with something Mike had it a few weeks ago. It's really nice to see how happy Olivia appears to be with her team. They appear to accept her opinion. No one questioned that she had found an issue, and they all worked together to find a solution. It sounds like Olivia is working for a dream company with no diversity problems for women in technology. Stay tuned to see how bad things actually get shortly. After lunch, Olivia went back to her office and began to go through the code again, taking notes so that she could properly explain to Carson exactly what was happening. She hadn't gotten an email at this time. She contemplated calling a team meeting so that they could work out their plan of attack together, but decided to wait until after her meeting with Carson. He would probably want to schedule that for himself. About 30 minutes later, her phone rang. It was Carson. He asked her to come to his office. Olivia told him that she'd be there right away. When she got to his office, she walked over to his desk. "This is the code I wanted to show you," she said, placing her laptop on his desk and opening it up for him to see. "Yeah, I heard about that. We can talk about your concerns later," he said, with a nasty tone of voice. "I called you here to ask you why you were talking about Mike at lunch." Door closed behind her. She turned around, and there was Mike. Olivia looked at him confused. "What I said? What did I say?" She was obviously very confused. She hadn't spoken to Mike at lunch. "It seems that you told everyone over lunch that Mike is responsible for a security breach that could make us liable. For data mismanagement? I hope you have proof of that. We don't look kindly on spreading misinformation about our coworkers. You are part of a team, and you should act that way, no matter how senior you think you are." Olivia was a little shocked. "That's not what I said. I mentioned that issue to the team, and we were brainstorming over lunch on how best to fix it. I think it may have been Martin that wondered if the company could be liable for data mismanagement. Blaming Martin won't help your case. Your behavior today leaves much to be desired. You should have come to me directly with this rather than pointing fingers at Mike. We are a team, and we solve our problems as a team." You see, I didn't say that Mike did anything," Olivia tried to explain. "Someone merely asked whose code was responsible, and I said that it was related to something that Mike had committed several weeks back. We are not here to discuss the code. We are here to discuss your behavior. I will expect you to apologize to Mike in front of the team when this is over." "But we don't even know who did it. And it doesn't really matter who did it. What matters is how we fix it. If you just let me walk you through it," she said, trying very hard to ignore the tears his last statement had brought to her face. "Do you think Carson was right to talk to Olivia in front of Mike? Should she be forced to apologize in public? Did she do anything wrong? Let me know what you think in the comment section below." "Fine, show me what you have," said Carson, in a dismissive tone of voice. Olivia began to show Carson what she had found and explained how it could potentially spread data between customers. Mike butted in. "It doesn't look that bad to me. It would be really hard for that to ever happen." Olivia again tried to explain to him, using clearer terms, how this could happen and what would be at the risk. "I agree with Mike. I don't think it's such a big deal," said Carson. "We can deal with it in 6 months. Put it on the backlog. I am very disappointed in your behavior, embarrassing Mike publicly in this manner for such a minor issue. Again, Olivia tried to explain to them the problem, raising her hand slightly, getting a little frustrated. Can you guess what happened next? Do you think Olivia should apologize to Mike? Should she keep trying to explain the issue to them? Or should she accept their opinion? Carson raised his voice. "Will you keep your panties on?" he said. "We have heard what you had to say, and it doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. You are sidestepping the real issue here. You are talking about other coworkers, no proof of an issue, and you're not the judge and jury in this office." Olivia looked shocked. She couldn't believe what Carson had just said to her. Mike looked smug over in the corner. This is where we'll leave our story of Olivia. What do you think happened next? What do you think that she should do? Should she just give up? Or should she push her case more? Should she take that comment to HR? Will it even help? Let me know what you think. These stories need to be told if we are going to inspire the world to change. These kind of things shouldn't happen, but they do. I'm a woman in tech. These are our stories.